Alright, here's something real quick that I want to do with the Mercedes. But also this. This is a heater core bypass. It's just a valve. And I'm going to throw this in here right after this auxiliary pump. And see if I can get this to bypass the heater core. Because at the moment, heater core is working very well. And blend door is not working very well. So heat comes out of it, even though the heater's off. And the fan is off. So I would like to just not let coolant into the heater core for the time being. So I want to throw that valve down in here, hopefully right in there. I don't really want to bypass the pump. I guess theoretically I could just take off those two hose clamps and just jam it in there and bypass the pump. I mean, that's really the easy thing to do. And then additionally I want to unplug the pump just on the off chance that the pump still works, so that it doesn't burn itself up. However, that means I have to remove all of this and reconnect everything if I want to just turn the heater on. I would much rather have this in line right there, and I could just cut that. The problem is that this pump is mounted and this pipe is mounted, so I can't do that because there's a dog leg in here. But I'm hoping that I can take this piece of 5/8 heater hose and just sort of add a service loop in there. Just plug it in one way, spin it all the way over and plug it in or pull that off, stick the valve right in there, and then swoop her on over like that and get that in there. So I'm going to pull this doohickey off real quick, like yonder, so kind of like that, and get my meat down in there and see if I can get these things to even come off. Probably won't. And jam some heater hose and a valve in there and hopefully not get coolant everywhere in the process. Well, I got another beer. And that didn't have a snowball's chance of hell in working. Those hose clamps are fucking seized. So I'm debating. I think I might try that one. I haven't tried that one yet. If that one comes off, then great. I'll just move this down a little bit. But I think the best course of action might actually be to just slice that hose dead in half down the middle, and I'll have just barely enough hose to be able to plug that in there. Call it a day. And yeah, we'll see. I think that one might come off. I need to go grab some PB Blaster and soak everything, but those guys are, they gone. Alright, well, there it is. Also, there that is. It's not terribly pretty, but we got a service loop in there and it's not touching the exhaust as far as I can tell yet. I mean, it's a little close to that turbo. We won't worry about it. But it's in there, and I can reach my grubby mitts in there and undo it, and I can pull this HVAC line out of the way and get to it a little bit better if I really feel like it. But it's in there, and it's shut off right now, so hopefully that should keep hot air off of my face in the middle of summer. So yeah, and hopefully that pump actually doesn't work, and it doesn't like burn itself up from like high static pressure. But I don't think it should be running with the AC set to AC and not heat. There it is. So yeah, that is done. It only cost me like $20, and hopefully I should be able to just turn heat on and off as I please without having to fix the complex 1980s German computer-controlled HVAC system, which should really just be like a switch and another switch. I don't know why that was so hard. I don't know why they had to make it like automatically controlled. Why is it not just an AC on, AC off, heater on, heater off thing? Like just like, let me shut that valve off. That's all you gotta do. What Germans? All right, well, we're driving to work, and she's staying cold. No heat is coming out of the blowers. I was actually using the blowers there for a second, and now the blower motor doesn't work. It does that sometimes. Don't know what the problem is, but it sorts itself out at some other point. Kind of smelled like burning crayons there, so I shut it off. So motor might be dying. But it's not overheating, so it was not relying on the heater core to get a little bit of extra heat out. And yeah, that's really annoying. But I'll put some tape on that or something and then die in a car fire because I can't get the pin out, but we'll see. So far so good. So my little bypass worked, and we'll check to see whether or not I dumped all the coolant on the ground. But I did dump an extra like pint maybe a little bit less into the overflow tank, about a pint, I think, just to replace what fell out on the ground, just in case, although that's all up in the heater core and there's no flow, so that bubble's not going to come out of there until I open that valve up again. So I might overpressurize the system and blow some steam out, but it's just water. I got to drain the thing out anyway, because that coolant that came out was pretty much rest water. Alright, so just driving home with old Mossy, had a really interesting issue with the neutral safety switch there, where it worked and then it didn't in the middle of the car cranking over, and it felt like I all of a sudden just like lost a rod or something, so that was scary. But it was just like the neutral safety switch like kicked in like right after the engine started turning over, and it just like the Bendix on the starter just like lost all power and it just clunked. So that was exciting. Also, disregard the fact that the camera footage looks like ass and it's all foggy and like washed out. I dropped my phone screen and there's a crack running right through the front of the front-facing camera lens, so just get over it for a minute. I just got the oil analysis in, and no immediate smoking guns, nothing I'm particularly concerned about. I'll throw all the doobly-doos up here on the front for you to look at, but the only real concern is that wear metals are higher than they should be for only having 300 miles on the oil. They were comparing me against oil with 4,000 miles on it, and it was not great. I had like, I don't know, I think I had like double the iron I was supposed to at 4,000 at 3,000. I'm just going to assume that's rust. I'm going to assume it's iron oxide or rust in the engine. That is, it's just been picked up in the pan, or it was in the bottom of the oil cooler. It could also be metal shavings from when I cut the oil cooler line. A little bit of that could have got into the sample I took. So there's that. I'm going to just assume that that's buildup from past use and not something I've caused immediately. If it is something I've caused immediately, it's top end wear from when I was trying to get the thing started. That was not a hot oil sample, and I took it out of an oil cooler, so it was not typical. Wear metals for lead and chromium and aluminum were all just slightly over average for the 4,000 mile sample, so I'm not really worried there. I mean, again, it's 300 miles versus 4,000 miles. There should be less than that, but you know, it's a beat up farm car with 170 something miles on it, and yeah, so not super worried. Hopefully that's it. I'm sick of looking at my own face. Let me swap this. There you are. That's much prettier. But anywho, I'm not worried about it. You know, wear metals are high, no coolant leaks, nothing like that. Oil looked healthy, of course, no excessive fuel or anything crazy. So it looks like the head gasket's fine. It just might be that, you know, the engine's a little worn out. I'm hoping maybe going to a heavier oil will help fix that. Additionally, going to a much better diesel oil and not this Supertech stuff could have, you know, some better wear. Could have a better wear additive package in it and do a little bit better. We'll see. And again, this engine sat for 16 years, so I think maybe it's just corrosion that shook off and it's just still in the pan, or it settled to the bottom of the engine, or settled to the bottom of the oil cooler lines, and it just got all drained out whenever I took the sample. I'm not going to worry about it. So yeah, that's good news, mostly. Not the greatest news, but good news. I probably shouldn't have gone down this road in a two-wheel drive diesel Mercedes with all the recent rains, and those were some pretty damn big ruts, so hopefully we don't get stuck. Alright, so finally decided to take the Mercedes out into the city for once, and now I get to experience stop and go traffic, so that's fun. Car's doing good, not overheating, oil pressure's staying good. I'll tell you what, I got on the interstate and drove about 5 miles. Oh boy, she loves going over 60. As far as the performance of the car, once that boost gauge goes over about 8, this car comes alive. It's really terrible on the low end, but when you're in top gear, you know, with a 1-to-1 doing about 3,000 RPM, this thing is incredibly responsive, which I was not expecting, considering how terrible it performs in low gears. And I think that's just the vacuum modulator thing for the transmission. not being great. Just look at that damn bus. That is terrifying. But anywho, I think the vacuum modulator thingy that controls the transmission, I don't think it's working right. And I think it's shifting way too early in the lower gears, because it seems as soon as it hits 2000, it just hard shifts. And it really, you might be able to hear it, but it really does not like downshifting into first gear. I don't know if you can hear it. There it went, clunk. So yeah, definitely something with the transmission. Well, you're just gonna have to look at that. So anyway, I'm really quite shocked at how well this thing does on the interstate. Once I get this and the steering wheel figured out, new tires, proper balancing, and the flex disc on the drive shaft, I think she might be a cruiser. But bumper to bumper traffic, she's pretty awful. Like I've got to put about 50 to 60 pounds on the brake to hold her in place, because I think there's a leak in the vacuum booster, or at least a leak in the seal, and when I press down on the brake pedal, like all the vacuum gets lost, because it's really, if I'm at high RPM and I touch the brake pedal, brakes work just fine. But as soon as I get down to idle and I'm just sitting here trying to hold the thing in place, I have no vacuum boost. Like it's terrible. Like it's full on mechanical brakes, which is not great. So definitely not a rush hour traffic kind of car in any sense, also because of no AC. But yeah, she has great potential to be a road trip cruiser. So I think I may throw some flex discs on it, and I may just shop around for tires and see if I can find some better tires and take them and get them properly balanced and see if that fixes all of the wobble. It kind of feels like it's got a flat spot, but it's a little bit infrequent to be a flat spot, so I don't really know what it is, but it's definitely got a consistent vibration at a certain rate. So yeah, we'll need to look into that, but hopefully I can get that resolved, and I can start driving this thing all around. I'm really excited to see what my fuel economy is the next time I fill up, so we'll see about that. Anyway, I'm just going to Walmart to buy some useless garbage I don't need, and it's quite fitting because this thing is like full of Walmart fluids, so it's a return to home sort of. Well, we're leaving Walmart, and I've been having issues getting the thing to shut off recently. I think it's because there's some kind of vacuum leak in the brake booster, so I don't have any stored vacuum. So I ride on my brakes a whole bunch and then finally pull into a parking space, stop, and then when I go to kill the engine, I don't have any vacuum built up. And unless I sit there and just like rev the engine at like 2,000 RPM, can't shut it off. Also exciting, at the last stoplight, suddenly, I just lost all digitals, like all of them. Oh, there they went. Like the flasher, just like the blinker, just all of a sudden stopped working. And then all the gauges just went dead, and you just saw that they all just came back. So I have no idea what that was about. I'm gonna assume there's something wrong with the multifunction switch up here that's somehow interfering with all that up there. Something shorted out, but they're all back now. So that was interesting. We'll just forget that ever happened. Okie dokie. So I think I'm going to take this puppy on a 300-mile round trip, day trip this Saturday, and I'm a little worried that I'm gonna hit some sort of like critical threshold in the fuel tank, and the static, gravitational pressure pushing up to the primer pump is gonna reach a point where I'm gonna have this thing start stalling and totally falling flat on its face. So I would like to be able to put my 5-gallon diesel can back in the back seat without it falling over and breaking my nozzle. So I've devised this contraption that will hopefully swoosh on in here and allow me to strap this down, because I don't really have anything to tie off to. Normally I would just bungee cord it to something, but all I've got in here are springs, and those guys rotate, and this is all plastic vacuum jobbers and stuff like that, and I really don't want to jam too much in there. So I'm hoping with this guy I can just drop the can right on in there, put that strap over, and that'll give it enough center of gravity that it's not going to fall over. So hopefully that should work, and that'll buy me, at least, if my MPG calculations are correct, another, 150 miles, so that can get me to a fuel pump, you know, at the very least. So yeah, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna try and drive somewhere. All right, well, there that jobber is, and that can just live back there more or less. Doesn't get in too much of the way, and it's not going anywhere. So good, that's what I wanted, and I can rotate that as well and stuff it in that way. I've got the clearance to, you know, tuck it out of the way, and we may just do that. But for now, that is not going to roll over anymore when I'm taking sudden, you know, 7G turns in this clapped out piece of shit. But anyway, let's go fill up the tank, put some miles on her. All right, so I just put air in all the tires, just topped them off. Just wanted to make double extra triple sure that I don't have any low tires before I head out on my excursion in a day or two. And I noticed something I'm slightly worrying about this tire. It's really worn on the outside over here, like a lot, and it's past the tread on this side, and it's starting to bulge. I don't know how much life that has left in it, but it's really bald right here, but not on the rest of the tire. But there's a stress line running all the way around here, so I have a feeling this guy's gonna delaminate when I don't want it to. Not terribly long, so yeah, this is the worst looking out of all of them. All the other ones look just fine, but that one did also have the locked up caliper, so I don't know if that has something to do. I mean, these have plenty of meat. Could just be that was the only one that I installed, you know, the right way, and they're all like that on the inside, and I can't see it. I don't know. These are like 7-year-old dump tires. Yeah. But it's worrying and kind of concerning, and also someone mentioned flat tires to me today in conversation, without being provocated, and I kind of thinking that might be some kind of a premonition, but we're gonna run them anyway. And yeah, but new tires, definitely going to put new tires on the list, and hopefully this guy survives. And yeah, I think actually what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to swing around over to the garage and just swap those, because if I have a tire go flat, I would much rather it. Actually, I think I want to put it back there. If I'm going to have a tire blow out, ideally it's that one back there, because that will be the easiest to remove. So yeah, I think we might throw the rear up on blocks, chalk that wheel, jack this side up, and then swap those two out, and you know, not have to worry about this. All right, well, here's the problem child. I don't know where the most troublesome spot is, but you know, you get the drift. Basically no tread left, and then this is the one over here, which is the one with the plug, and as you can see, far more tread left. So very interesting how that one is totally clapped out. So that Toyota Camry I pulled this off of definitely had some fucked up alignment. But anywho, we're going to throw that on the front and this on the back, and hopefully neither of them blow up. All right, well, that's been swapped over, so that looks a little bit less terrible. And we just won't look too hard at that tire, or it'll probably pop. But anywho, kind of sucks. I know I need to do that, and I guess it's kind of forcing my hand, but I am broke as fuck right now, and I really don't feel like spending $500 because my phone screen is caved in. I'd much rather, you know, buy a new phone, or just not spend the money. Either way, I digress. But hopefully she'll make the trip just fine. And this is where the foreshadowing text goes, if something horrible happens, future Tom. So yeah, stick that right up on there. But anywho, probably should be fine. Do need to get new tires eventually. Don't know what I'm going to get. Probably something cheap. Probably Douglas's, because they're like $70 after tax and everything. I have to replace the spare too, because that's an original spare on it. I'll probably throw one of the nicer looking ones of these on the spare, because, you know, let's be real, doesn't really matter. Anywho, yeah. Well, I'm on my way to work. We're cruising at 65, which you probably shouldn't be doing in this thing, because cops are probably looking for an excuse to pull me over. Not that there's any cops on the island ever. Like all of that front end vibration I was really worried about, it's now on the back now, because I feel it in my back. So it's like I have a free massage now. So that's great news and terrible news. It's great news because that means it's probably not something horribly wrong with the front end. But it's bad news because it means it's 100% that tire and that it's starting to bulge and that it's completely beyond saving with balancing beads. Which means it's probably about to fucking banana peel at any goddamn second. So I'll just drive it 300 miles to the middle of nowhere, and we'll call it good. But that means I can just get new tires and get it balanced and probably fix most of what's going on wrong with this thing, except for this. I did just scrape enough money together that I ordered up a whole piecemeal front steering rebuild kit. So new tie rod assemblies, new steering dampener, new idler arm bushing, and what was the other thing? Oh, and a new drag link. So I'll be able to throw all that in there. I was able to, you know, source all of that for about half the price of anything else from from Rock Auto. Because for whatever reason, the TRW just had a wholesaler closeout, and like all their drag links and tie rod ends were like half off. So that was convenient. So I just jumped on that. Figured I'd do that now, but you know, spend 140 bucks and have all that waiting. But anywho, that tire is probably going to explode. So hopefully, when I take this thing someplace on Saturday, it doesn't blow up. Or if it does blow up, it blows up next to a tire shop, which it won't. It'll blow up in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina. But anywho, that's exciting. That ain't bad for 250 miles. All right, well, we fueled her up. I just aired up the spare. I'm cracking a beer, so I think we're good for tomorrow. Got 29 and just I think 29 and 1/100th of an MPG this last go round. So it seems to be that we're going to fluctuate around probably around 29 and a half. May go a little bit higher tomorrow, being on the highway the whole time. May go a little bit lower normally, being, you know, just to and from work, but we'll see. But that's really good. That's consistent. Good news. This tire has not exploded yet. Let me go check to make sure it has not suddenly separated, because that would be exciting. Can't see shit. We'll just pretend it's good. Clean up the windshield because it was dirty as hell. All right, sun's coming up. It's like in the 60s out this morning, which is crazy because it's only like the third day of like fall. But anywho, that's great. So hopefully I won't die today. And yeah, I got my earplugs. We're gonna head out, and hopefully I don't go deaf and don't end up dead on the side of the road, and all the tires stay together. Probably not. All right, well, I'm crossing over the interstate. Probably gone, I don't know, 30 miles. Just took a piss at a truck stop, and so far so good. Definitely feel that wheel wobble going on, but it's all in the back now. So it's definitely the tire, which at least, you know, easy fix. But so far so good. Everything's holding good. It's like 50 something out right now, which is crazy for September. And she's been sitting around 70. All's good to go. We shall carry on. Well, I just passed someone for the first time in Old Mossy, so that was exciting. Felt the whole adrenaline dump because I thought the thing was going to stall out and I'd run head on into somebody, but she can, in fact, pass a fucking clapped out V6 Dodge Dakota that's going like 40 and 55, so there's that. Well, we made it here for the most part. Still got another half mile, but no issues whatsoever. And yeah, we're out here in the middle of nowhere, just north of Aiken, South Carolina, and we're gonna look at some cool bugs and stuff out here in Sandhills. Let's find them bugs. Here, cool bugs. Reindeer liking. No bugs. What's that? Well, I'll be a beamer in the woods. You think we can get it running? I'm gonna say probably no. Neat though. Yeah, she's been here a minute. Yeah. Also, I think I'm trespassing right now. Alright, well, let's make the voyage back. Haven't lost any oil and haven't lost any tires. Whee! Off-roading in your diesel Mercedes, there's nothing finer. Ooh boy, look at them sandy ruts. Ooh, don't slow down. got the traction to make it back up. Man, it's like my driveway, but a hill. Uh-oh. Losing shit. Ah, shit, I took a wrong turn. I'm in Denmark. I've been waiting all day to make that Denmark joke. I hope it landed. Just cruising my man. Oh, this has been a dream. It's been beautiful weather. I'm going like 70 miles an hour right now. I probably shouldn't do that, but sunroof open, shades on, earplugs in, just choice. Perfect cruising weather. And just like that, we're home, safe, and not any less sound than we were before. So, I think that was a thorough stress test. 300 miles in one trip. I think she's, for the most part, good now. So, new set of tires, fix all the looseness in the front end, and throw some flex joints on it, and I think we're there. I don't like the look of that. It seems that we might be blowing oil up the tailpipe now, because there's this big black smear all across the grass over here, which is directly behind the tailpipe. So that's interesting. Well, that's soot actually, I think. As you can see, we're right where we're supposed to be, right where it was. We're not burning oil, so I'm hoping that's soot. However, she was loping a little bit there when I shut her off. So, might be something going on with one of the cylinders. It's a little bit worrying. I don't know if you can hear that, but kind of sounds like there's a cylinder that's not so happy. Yeah, and she's vibrating a lot more than she normally does. I don't like that. And the car, you can hear the reverberation in here, which it was not doing before. Huh. I don't like that. I'm gonna hope that's just a fuel system restriction or something. Or maybe something's just clogged one of the injectors. Let's see if there's anything coming out that tailpipe. Give her some juice. Well, there's not any more black than there was before, so I don't know what that was about. We're just gonna ignore it. Alright, well, we have about just a hair under 260 miles on her. Let's see something in 8.6 or lower. Going up. Whoo boy. Well, 26 miles a gallon is still pretty damn good. Never mind, I had a bit of dyslexia. My brain said 259.9, not 295.9. So we actually got 29.48 miles a gallon. So that's super consistent and great to see. Oh yeah. Okie dokie. So back to this soot. I think I figured out what it is. I think the soot only happens in the morning because we have a really heavy dew out here. So I think what's happening is I start the car up, I'm getting incomplete combustion because the engine's still cold. It's just, just running off of the glow plugs, and I'm getting soot out of the engine when I first rev it to accelerate into reverse, because that thing shoots way up to 2,500 RPM. And I think I'm getting a puff of black smoke directly onto the cold dew on the grass, and it's collecting there and then sitting there, wicking to the surface of the grass, probably through the unburnt diesel that's coming out as white smoke, going into the waxy coating of the grass. The the dew burns off in the sun, and so I'm left with a layer of soot embedded in the coating of the grass. And I think that's what's happening, because it's not doing this on repetition. It's only when I start the car in the morning, when there's dew on the ground, that it seems to be doing this. So, I'm not gonna worry about it. Okie dokie, Hurricane Ian's fixing to blow on through here in the next day or two. So we got all the cars stuffed over here by the garage so they can, get hit by projectiles going at high speed, but at the very least they won't have a power line drop on top of them. So anywho, hopefully old Mossy survives unscathed. I'm not really that worried, but stuff's happening. Well, hurricane ain't supposed to hit us dead center anymore. Might get 7 foot of storm surge, but more importantly, we have tires now, and they're name brand. We actually managed to snag some Falcons for a good price. I have no idea if the Sinceras are any good at all, but I know Falcon is a good brand, and these were like $73 a piece. Considering my next cheapest option was $61 Douglas's, I'll spend the extra $50, thank you, and get some much better tires. And the tread wear is way better than those Douglas's. Those Douglas's were like $400, and these are $620. So I mean, they'll hopefully pay for themselves. So yeah, awesome. I even have even went and picked up some valve stems, so we can pop those old ones off, swap the plugged one for the spare or the next nicest looking one, and just pull that wheel out, knock the wheel weights off, put the save all of the balance beads, put some new valve stems in all of these. I know 3 of them are good, I think, but I have to replace the spare, and I think one of them is a used valve stem. So we'll just replace all the valve stems and I'll save the old ones. And save the balance speeds to throw in something else at a later date, and take these down to tire shop and get them balanced as soon as there's not a hurricane outside. Well, hurricane's gone. Ended up being a nothing burger for us as far as I can tell. Might have a tree in the road, haven't checked yet, but lost power for 5 minutes and it flickered 2 dozen times, and just enough to knock off internet and be annoying. And it rained 3 inches. That was about it. Sorghum got knocked over a little bit, and I filled up the cum bucket. That's about it. So anyway, I think tire shop will be open tomorrow morning, so we're going to swap tires off of there. I think I'm not going to change valve stems except for on the spare. We'll see. I might, if I find the one that I can obviously tell is off of the Camry, because I'm pretty sure I had to stick one that wasn't new on there. I don't remember. We'll swap that out, but otherwise we're just going to throw one in the back, pull the spare out, swap all the tires around, then take it down to tire shop and get it balanced. And I'm going to try and save the balance beads that are in the tires. That may be a fool's errand. It may not be. But if I can, drain those off into a cup, I'm definitely going to save them. So we shall do that, and I'll report back. Okie dokie. New spare is in, and I made sure to put one of the counteract valve stem covers on there, so don't forget about the balance beads. And we went with right rear because that had the best tread on it. And yeah, that one has equally good tread, but it's also got a plug in it. So I'm going to assume that one probably has the bad valve stem, if anything. Or actually, I don't care about the valve stems. We're just going to leave them. They've been holding up just fine. So, anywho, spare is confirmed. So we'll throw all the crap back in here, and I'll actually get to working on the other tires. Tire shop is closed tomorrow, so we'll do it on Monday. So no rush tonight, but I'm still going to do it anyway. Alrighty, all the tires are off. Spare's here. And I'm pretty confident this is one of the original tires. I don't think it's the original spare. But this Michelin says made in Germany on it somewhere. Wherever it was. Yeah, made in West Germany. So, yeah. Plus a, Mercedes brand valve stem cover. So, anyway, hopefully that valve stem core comes out. And also, good thing I'm doing this because valve stem is toast. So, we had to get in there anyway. So, might as well put a brand new tire on it. Well, that's exciting. The whole core is just unthreading right out of there. So, we'll just do one of those. I've only seen that happen once before. But yeah. She drunk. Popped the old spare off, and that honestly wasn't that bad. And that bead is pretty nice. I'm going to come in here and just clean up a little bit with like some 120 grit, just because there's some like rubber schmutz on there. But other than that, all looks good. Alright, that's one on. Now comes the fun part. Trying to bust all of these off the beads and still somehow saving the balance beads. Current plan is I'm going to throw it on here, bust the bead off of both sides, and then throw it on here. I guess we're going to throw it on there normally, and then pop the first set the bead off at the top, and then pull it back off, slowly rotate it to one side, and then turn it over, and hope we can dump all the beads out, which is not going to happen, because if you've ever tried to get water out of a used tire, you know that that's impossible. So we'll see. I may be able to, like, maybe put it on there, take it off backwards, maybe? That'll be, we'll see. This either may be completely foobar, or it'll work great. We'll see. I don't know. Well, we managed to get all 3 of these off without spilling any of the balance beads, so that's a miracle. So I'll take those out in my due time. And we got those 3 all back on, aired up, and waiting to pressure test. However, this bead is fighting the living shit out of me. I have even put the come-along on it. Could not get it to go. Those all went on without any trouble. I didn't even have to put the come-along on them. But this one took the ratchet strap. Still is not sealing, so we are going to apply a forbidden technique real quick. And hopefully it all comes out one piece. Alright, here goes nothing. It's probably too much. Alright, contact. That didn't do shit. Hey, now it did shit. Ooh, that was spooky. Let's hope it said both. Hot dog! Forbidden technique worked out in the end. Just like that, we've saved 3 tires worth of balance beads, and I even kept the squeeze bottle just for such an occasion. And next stop is Gorman's in a day or 4. Alrighty, well, while I have this sucker up here on stands, I'm going to look at the steering linkage system real quick, just to see if I can try and pinpoint where the slop is. I have my suspicions, but we will confirm or deny. So I'm going to reach up in here, turn the key, make a horrid buzzing noise happen, and then do this with the steering wheel, because as you can see, I have about that much play in the steering wheel before I feel resistance. I think it's just my idler arm bushing, which should be, I don't know if you can see it, but that guy right there, that big bolt, that should be that guy, but it could also be the whole gearbox, which is right there. So I'm gonna wriggle up on in here and shake this wheel and see what happens. So that's the guy who actually makes the motion. That's connected to the gearbox. So that should move with any movement in the steering wheel. And we have that. But I think there is slop in the steering wheel. Although, because right there I'm moving it. Can't see it, but I'm moving the steering wheel back and forth a couple degrees. And I'm not getting any play out of the gearbox. But there, play in the gearbox. So I think most of that slop is actually the gearbox, which is regrettable, because I'm not buying another gearbox. But it looks like no slop in the tie rods, no slop in the drag link, but I do see slop in that idler arm bushing up there. You can see that guy shifting up and down. Let me zoom in on that, give you high def. You can see that guy moving. I don't know if you can see that guy moving up and down at all, but probably not, because I'm moving as well, but it's going up and down about a couple inches, so I think that idler arm bushing is roasted, which that is an easy fix. So is the dampener. I'm pretty sure that dampener isn't doing anything, which is probably why I'm getting vibration, those two combined. I think one of those, that tie rod end over there might have some slack in it, but it's probably just that idler arm bushing and the dampener. That may be all I need, which I think are the two easiest to do, because I don't think I have to use a pickle fork for the idler arm bushing. I think I can just disconnect it and then just like shift it out of the way slightly. And then with the dampener, can you shut up for a second? And then with the dampener, I'm pretty sure it's just a matter of 2 bolts and it's in and out. So we may actually just do that while we're here. I think I have to get a taper punch to drive out the bushing, but it's like a multi-piece bushing. It's very German and complicated, but it also means you don't have to get it pressed to get the thing out, because it's like 2 rubber bushings with a big bolt running through them. This guy right up in here. So hopefully what I can do is just take that bolt out and just pull it straight out the top, and then just turn this wheel and get this to move out the way, and then just pull this rubber out right here, and then just drive the rubber out the top, taper punch, and drop it back in, and you know, smooth sailing. And then this is the dampener right here, which thankfully is hex, because I read that some of these are not a hex bolt, but an actual Allen key, which would be a nightmare. I don't know why they decided to do that. I'm hoping this is the updated design, since this is 85, but this should just be literally, I don't know if this guy is captive, I don't think it is, but just pull this nut out and pull that nut out and just swap the dampener out. So I don't think I'm gonna fuck with the drag link and the tie rod ends and having to do those ball joints, getting in alignment and all that. I think I'll just do those and see if that fixes the problem. If it does, then we'll come back in here and we'll try that self-adhesive tape, do a little bit more, give it a second go, because all of that fell off of these guys. But I don't think I'm at alignment time yet, but we will be eventually. All right, well, with a little bit of China torque magic, this guy came out no problem. I'm gonna say that it was bad, considering that versus that. So yeah, I think this one might even, yeah, it'll come out with its with its own weight. So that dampener was absolutely fucking toast. Anywho, while I got this out, I'm gonna attempt to bust the torque free on that guy. It's apparently on with 133 foot-pounds, and it takes a 15/16/24 millimeter. So it's we'll see if it comes off. If it comes off, I might try it. But I was reading up on it. It's a little bit harder to get that bushing out than I thought it would be, but we'll see. Might surprise us. Alright, well, that's done. That was not hard at all. I mean, if you don't have a China torque, might fight you a little bit, because it's apparently, it's like taking off a lug nut, but you have to lie on your back. But she zipped it off no problem. I was able to just jam the old bolt in there and just wriggle both the bushings off. My top bushing didn't want to wriggle out too much, and I broke it off. But it doesn't look all that horrible. I mean, it's a little worn, but they're not like trashed. I don't know how much that was causing the problem, but you know, the dampener is absolutely shot. So guess I'll just grab the steering wheel and see if it feels any better. But should do something. At the very least, it'll make it shake a little bit less. Oh, hush. Yeah, I still have all that slop in there. I'm pretty sure that's the gearbox. Well, I just did a little bit of Googling, and apparently that's an adjustment screw right there that can take slack out of the gearbox. So I'm actually going to try that real quick, because it looks like I've got a lot of meat left on that guy. Like, you're supposed to turn it counterclockwise, and when you run out of screw, then you're fucked. And it looks like I got a lot, so I'm going to attempt to just loosen that guy up a little bit. Just hit it with the wire wheel, and then hit it with some PB Blaster, and just see if I can take that lock nut off, and then rotate that guy in just a little bit, and see if we get some success. Okie dokie, after further Googling, I figured out precisely what I was supposed to do, and that was not hard at all. And we have instant transmission to the wheel, and about 1 inch of play in the steering wheel, as measured with tape measure. You have to trust me, but it's about 1 inch. And you shut up for a second. Anyway, apparently 1 inch of play in the steering wheel is factory spec, more or less. So what you do is you go down in here and you put a big old honking 3/4 inch on there, turn it counterclockwise, break the lock nut free, and then you put either a 3/4 inch wrench, or I luckily had a crow's foot, put that on there, and then you put a 6mm Allen down in there. Thankfully I had a driver. Then you break the center bolt free. For me, I had almost precisely 2 inches of play in the steering wheel, and I made exactly 180-degree rotation of that lock bolt down in there, and that put me right at 1 inch, which is factory spec. And so tightened, so then you put the 6mm back in there and then turn the 3/4 underneath it and then counter torque it and then get back on there with a big honking 3/4 and just give it another, you know, 1/8 of a turn and just lock it down in there good. And now we have a fully adjusted steering wheel, and that's well, fucking wheel locks on, but that's great. That was really straightforward, so that's great to see. So that plus the idler arm plus the dampener should be all of my steering issues. Well, that and properly balanced tires. You do not want to tighten that anymore, apparently, because if you tighten it anymore, you'll get into like a wheel lock issue where you turn the wheel all the way to one side and then your power steering system won't let you turn back because it'll bind up. So don't do that. I have exactly 1 inch of play, so I should hopefully be fine, or I'll die and crash into a car or something, blow up, and that'll be the end of me. So I'll report back from the hospital. Anywho, one other thing I want to adjust while I'm out here wrenching on the car and still have a couple, you know, hours of daylight left. The alternator is squeaking again, and coming in here and checking the belt tension. It is looser than I want it to be. I mean, it's not bad. It's about maybe a 1/2 inch of deflection, but it should be about 1/4. So I'm gonna pop that air cleaner off real quick and get down in there and wrench on the alternator real quick, and hopefully put a little bit more tension to it, tighten it back up, and be done with that. Okie dokie, well that should be done considering this kludge of a tensioner I've had to put on there. I've got a 7/16 on the back and a 10mm on the front, and it managed to thread its way on there. So you know, so long as it actually stays on here and doesn't decide to escape off into the belt, we should be good. But tension is back to about a 1/4 inch of deflection, which is right where we want it. So we'll keep ignoring it. Ain't nothing to this section. I'm just enjoying it. Okie dokie. Well, while I have time off, cool weather, and the Merc up on stands, there's a couple things I want to get in here and try and do, just for peace of mind and because they've been on my list for forever. One is I want to get in here and I want to swap out these rubber supply lines for the fuel supply, because they're rotting, and as you can see, they are just seeping diesel fuel. So I have a feeling they're sucking air in, and I'm losing either 1, pressure, 2, flow, 3, getting air in the lines. And that may be the reason why it's starting to lope and it's totally fucked on power. I mean, in a very small way. 2, I want to get in and confirm valve lash, because I read that if you do the valve lash and everything's really tight and it hasn't been done forever, and then you drive the car around for 500 miles or so, the valves will actually tighten up again, because they weren't properly seated. So, you know, there was like uneven spots or carbon buildup or something, so you should go back in and reconfirm and then stay up on top of it and do it every 10,000 miles or so. So I'm going to pop that guy off and reconfirm valve lash, and if everything's fine, then we won't touch anything. But if everything is out of whack again, then we will get in there and we will fix that. And third, flex joints on the drive shaft, because they are petrified and starting to fall apart. And the last thing I want is for one of these flex discs to just implode at highway speed and just absolutely obliterate my yoke, because they are really, really close to going. But the trouble is, I tried this once before, and I can get all the bolts out just fine, but I can't get the flex disc to budge at all. Like, I can't get any of the little inset metal thingies to move. I have a new strategy, and it involves beating on it with a hammer again, but in a better way. So hopefully those will come off. If push comes to shove, I can get in there with the Sawzall, cut the rubber, take the drive shaft off, and then just like, I don't think I can get the drive shaft out because the muffler is in the way, or the exhaust system's in the way. And there's like a trans tunnel and parking lines and all that stuff, but I'm hoping I can at least get it low enough down, or at least get all the bolts out and then just smack on the thing with a hammer and loosen all the stuff and get the disc to pop out. I'm hoping the front one is not as bad. I didn't even try the front one because the rear one was so fucked. But we'll see. We might even try the front one first. I have to drop the trans mount in order to get to it. But we'll try that, and if I can get the front one out, that'd be great. And then I can just hammer on the back one, because that one has way more room. But if the front one's not going to move, I may not even try the back. So we'll see. But anyway, I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to swap that guy out. I'm also going to throw in a new fill filter. This one's fine, but it's full of crap. And rather than trying to clean this out while I've got potential fuel draining everywhere, I'm just swapping a new one. I'm just going to set the lines up. I've got vacuum plugs, so I'll just plug off this guy right here. And I don't think I'm going to belch fuel back up from there, but if I do, we'll plug that off as well. And I've just got cardboard in there to direct the diesel fuel down onto the ground and not into the rubber engine mount. So yeah, I'm gonna work on that real quick. Okie dokie, well, that's been done. Didn't have quite enough fuel line, so it got a little bit of a kink in there, but we're just gonna ignore that. That'll do its thing. That hose clamp down there fought me some. I managed to get it off, but I just, for my sanity, I put it on with a new hose clamp that has a hex head, because these Mercedes, OEM ones have Phillips, which I think is stupid. Hex is way better, because it's a real pain to break torque on those. So anyway, just swap that one out there for peace of mind. Made this one just a little bit longer, just so it's clearing the top of the primer pump, and I've primed it. So we have fuel flowing through, and hopefully, this is the old one. That's how much black garbage was just in the fuel filter, and that's a combination of melting fuel lines, because the primary fuel line coming straight from the strainer up here into the fuel rail, that one is shot. I have a replacement. I'll do it eventually, but I just don't feel like getting covered in diesel oil anytime soon, so we're going to hold off on that as long as we can. Filter will catch most of it, but those two lines were failing, so they've been replaced now. Yeah, and these ones back in here over the top of the wheel had to get replaced. You saw all that. So yeah, last I checked, the main supply line was not seeping, and it is still not seeping, so we are just going to not stare at it too hard, because it could just pop, and I really don't want to get covered in 21 gallons of diesel fuel today. But anywho, next we will do valve adjustment, or at the very least I'm going to pop the valve cover off and check it, and if it's all in spec, then we're not going to touch it. I'm just going to keep turning over the power steering pump, and I'll just keep checking things, and if they're all, perfectly in clearance, then we will not touch it. Okie dokie, just flush that with a little bit of 91% isopropyl alcohol, and we got the vast majority of the crud out. And that definitely feels like, that's like rust and rubber. Ugh. Anyway, so we'll throw those back in the box, throw it in the trunk, and if we ever need it, we'll have it. Alright, so we're checking valve lash, and at the moment I'm working on the intake for number 1, and 4 goes through just fine. However, I have checked, I believe it was this guy, exhaust on number 2, and I could not fit the 0.014 through it. And I also checked that guy, which I believe is intake, I think. Yeah, I think that's intake for number 3, and I could not get the 0.04 or 0.004 through it. So, yeah, we're going to do a valve adjustment. Okie dokie, well, that's been done. Exhaust valve on cylinder 2 fought me. It was like I could not get the lock nut to spin on the valve shaft, and so I was basically just loosening the adjustment nut on and off continuously. I don't know if it's supposed to do that, but it finally got it. That's set to 14 thou. Goes on in there, and we'll just spin the engine over and do all these real quick, and I'll fast forward through it. So now we're on to intake valve on cylinder 1. Boop, 0.043. And I'm trying to go a little bit loose, just so that if it does this again, it buys me more time. And now we will move on over to the exhaust valve on cylinder 4. Boop. That one's perfect. And then intake valve on cylinder 2. Boop. And exhaust valve on cylinder 5, I think, is next. A lot of compression on cylinder 5. Wait, what did I say? Yeah, exhaust valve. Little snug, but it goes in. I didn't do any adjusting on cylinder 5. That one could probably actually turn a little bit more. There. So yeah, right on through. And then intake valve on cylinder 4. Boop. Exhaust valve, cylinder 3. A lot of compression there too. Right on through. And then intake valve, cylinder 5. Give her just a little bit more. Tight, but I didn't adjust it. Probably also just bending it. And I don't know what's next. Oh, exhaust on cylinder 1. Boop. Intake cylinder 3. And I think we're back to where we started. Yep. Exhaust on cylinder 2. Which should hopefully still be in spec. Boop. Alright, good. So everything is adjusted. Nothing really crazy out of whack. I didn't check to see what the precise tolerances were, but looking at my sheet over here, anything with an X I didn't adjust. It was already good, and anything with a check I did adjust. This guy right here was the most out of whack. Exhaust on cylinder 2. And cylinder 3, both of them were out of whack. Yeah, so hopefully that's the end of the problem. It was just low fuel flow and imbalanced adjustment. Alright, that's all back together. So I'm loaded for bear, and we're going to go after this flex joint, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get the rear one off. Alright, we have progress. I got that guy out in one piece. Didn't really have to fight too much. I thought the center section was going to be fused in there, but thankfully that was free. I just had to take a big old screwdriver and a claw hammer and just basically smack on the edge of all of these, and I was able to pop this free. But then I had a new problem after that. I had to get a wedge and jam it between the drive shaft and the differential yoke to be able to separate this from this, because I just could not muster the strength with just my arm strength yanking on it. But thankfully there's enough room, so now I just have to hope that I can get this thing back in there. No problem, and pray. And I did mark them, as you can see. I marked them before, and the marks are still there, so that's good for me. Now we'll just have to sluice that guy back up on there, and actually I guess we'll stick it up here probably, and try and get that ship line back up. Alright, well, that has been done. This one was not in as bad a shape, but still in terrible shape. And I did it all without removing the transmission mount. You want to know why? Because I can't. You know, the Germans, in their infinite German coke-fueled wisdom of the 80s, have like captive lock nuts up there that are held on with these little plates. And those plates act like washers down there for the bolts holding on the transmission mount. However, mine rusted out, so the nut has separated from that little locking washer flappy doodad. I don't know why they didn't just weld these to the frame, but whatever. So that guy and that guy just spin in place. They're totally snug, totally torqued, but I can't get them off, and I'm not about to torch a transmission mount. So thankfully, there was just barely enough room right here that I was able to slip an open-end wrench in, get one flat on each nut, and then up over here, just enough room to get a breaker bar with a 15mm on it up into here, break the torque free. Thankfully they were all only on with about 30-40 foot-pounds, then a long 15 millimeter 3/8 on a ratchet, and I was able to just hold the nut in place right here and take it off, and all 6 bolts came out, and then this guy just took a little bit of tapping and the whole back came off, and a little bit more extra, and targeted beating on this side, and the whole back came off and the whole thing popped off, and I had just barely enough clearance. I was able to twist and jerk this out of the way and pull that out and put that in. So you can in fact do this without removing the transmission mount. I would highly recommend never doing that unless you absolutely have to, but it can be done. But just go ahead and take it out. I did not have that luxury, so I'm going to put these 2 bolts back, and that's it for me for today. Tire shop in the morning and we should be set. Alright, wheels and tires are loaded up, and I did one last thing. Came in here, I had a little bit of extra silicone tape left from doing a ball joint on the Jeep, and I came in here and I redid this upper ball joint. Actually, I don't even think I ever got to that one. And I came back down in here and I redid this lower one because most of the tape had come off. That one's probably just going to fall off again, but better nothing. Let's go get some tires balanced. Alrighty. Tire guys were slammed. So, it's been 3 hours and I still haven't gotten to balancing them. So, I've come home and I'm eating lunch, and I've pulled the odometer out, or the whole dash cluster, and we're going to take the odometer out of there and we're going to see if we can get this sucker to work. I'm hoping it's just a slipping gear on the main shaft for the drive, and I'm hoping I can just get in there and just drive the gear out, score it up a little bit, drive it back in, and it'll all be good to go. So hopefully it's like a 10-minute fix. We'll see. Alright, well, that's all been disassembled, and I managed to just pop that guy out without too much effort. Just took a small hammer and a small punch, chucked it up in the vise based off of that guy, and I've got a 7/32 drill bit in there just holding everything in place, because if you drive that out without anything to chase it, all those gears are going to go everywhere, and you will never get them lined back up. So anywho, that guy's out, and what we're after is, focus, this area right about here, because this gear was sitting about yonder when I looked at it. So yeah, this sort of area right in here, right behind the shiny spot, because the shiny spot is where it rides in this metal frame. We just need to score that up so that this guy, because that guy's supposed to be a pressure fit onto this gray gear, and it is not. I tested this guy out with the drill, and when I spun it up, everything turned and it went all the way up to 9/10 of a mile, and it stopped, and that gray gear stopped moving. And the gray gear is the only thing connected to that shaft via tension. Everything else is just loosey-goosey. That guy is supposed to be snug. So we're just going to take a razor blade and just score up this shaft just about the first 1/4 inch, everything that would be inside of that gray gear. Stick it back in and see what works. Alright, that's been scored up, so let's jam it back in there and hopefully this fixes it. Well, as far as I can tell, it appears to be working, but time will tell. I did see it hit 10 once and then it got stuck again. Seems to work better when it's cold, which again indicates a clearance issue. But just a spinning. Well, we're going to call that good, and we're going to throw it all back together. One other thing, come on now, focus. One other thing I need to look at is these lights. For whatever reason, they don't work. This light up here for the dash and this light right here for the left blinker don't work. And as far as I can tell, this guy is really cruddy, but the bulb's fine. It's not burnt. And they were working before, and then I reassembled it, and then that guy stopped working, and then all of a sudden that guy stopped working. But I think that the reason why this guy doesn't work is more has to do with that. The resistor tank. Do you gonna turn for me? Thank you. Anyway, the reason why this guy doesn't work, I think, is more this than anything going on up here. What's interesting is that these work, and these are wired in to the exact same contact, so it's not a power issue. It's got to be like these actual like holders themselves. So I'll pull this guy out and look at it, but these are getting the same voltage because these wires are just coming right there, soldered to the exact same contacts. So yeah, I don't really know what to say. Well, after doing some testing and investigating, it turns out these bulbs for the overhead just had bad contacts, so I just sprayed some contact cleaner on them and bent the metal tabs in there around a little bit, changed the geometry, and just cleaned them up a little bit. And the left blinker bulb appears to be bad, almost. It lights up, but it's like 1/10 the brightness of that one, so I think it's just on its last legs. So I'm not going to do anything about it because I don't have a replacement, because these are like Christmas bulbs, and they're like fused to the plastic, so I don't have any way to change that. So we're just going to leave it as is. Could swap one of these lights out for it, which I probably don't need one of those, whatever those are. Like I could swap the brake warning light, because, you know, I know when the brakes are bad. And yeah, I think I might actually do that. What was the other ones over here? Yeah, well, I need the glow plug and seatbelt light. So I think I will actually swap maybe the e-brake light. I'm gonna swap the e-brake light because I don't have a spring for the e-brake, so I have no way to set it. So yeah, that makes sense to me. So we'll do that real quick. All right, so as an example, this is my e-brake light. So if I just tap leads, that's about the intensity you want out of a little 12-volt bulb. Now, let me show you that guy. So now, here's the old blinker. Way too damn dim. So yeah, it still works, just barely. It's probably pulling way more current than it needs to. So we're going to swap it out for that guy. And yeah, I'm not worried about that because, again, I don't have any way to actually keep my e-brake down. It's just kind of loosey-goosey because everything broke off the sidewall. So I don't really need that light. And if it's a little dim, that's fine with me because it just likes to come on sometimes whenever the hell it feels like it. And I don't want to see it. Okay, now one other issue I'm running into is the rheostat. There's a bunch of white flaky crap that fell out of here, and it turns out it's some kind of like ceramic glue, and it's holding down the rheostat resistive wire. And so it's just dirty dangling now, and it's like coming into contact with the sidewall, which is ground, which is probably not a good thing. So I have some T8000 Wonder Glue, and we're just going to glue that guy right back down into its little channel to keep it from popping back up. Also, when it pops back up, I can't run the rheostat, and, you know, dead short, that's another issue. So we're going to fix that right quick. Alrighty, well, that's been glued, and thankfully I was able to just turn the rheostat so that it's now actually putting pressure down on that. So I'm going to let that sit for, I don't know, half hour or so, and then throw everything back together, throw it back in the car, and then hopefully sometime between now and then I'll get a call about some tires, maybe also a call about a suppressor, and we can go get some tires, throw on the Mercedes, and maybe even take it out for a test drive. We shall see. Probably no one will call me until like 4:30, and then I won't be able to get to either place before they close, because that's how life works. Alrighty, well, while I'm sitting around waiting on glue to dry and people to call me about tires, I figured I might as well do the drag link. It's not going to interfere with the alignment unless it's horribly manufactured and it's not the correct length. So I already took all the nuts off, came off with hand, disconnected the dampener again, and we're just going to jam the pickle fork down in there on those ball joints and just hope that they bust right off without too much fight, and throw the new one in there, torque it down, and call it good. Alright, well, that's been done. No muss, no fuss. Ignore the vacuum. Just beat it with a pickle fork, didn't even have to use excessive violence, and just snugged it right back in there, didn't even need to use the Allen key on top. So hopefully the alignment is still true. Alright, here's a quick tip on the instrument cluster install. If you can't get your speedo cable far enough out of the dash to be able to actually get your hands behind it, come down here under the car, and this guy right here, that's your speedo cable, and it's held in by this little clippy guy right there. Just undo that clip or just yank on it really hard until it breaks like I did, and you can actually pull more cable out of the housing like that, which I inadvertently did, but now I know how to do that, so I'm just going to zip tie this thing back loosely so that I have slop. But yeah, that has been a bugaboo for me for a while, and now I know where the cable is, and that there's actually plenty of room up in here. It's just, you know, just crimped on and didn't want to move. Okie dokie, well, that's all back together and back in. I'm actually going to fire her up and run some quick tests while I continue to wait on tires. Just want to make sure the engine still runs and, you know, all that stuff. Ooh, that was not a... Did not like that noise. Let's see. Steering wheel moves. all the way. And it goes back. A blinker. Well, we don't have blinker, so that's kind of an issue. Must actually be a wiring problem and not the light itself. Let's see. Yeah, and the e-brake light doesn't work even though I press it. Let's put her in drive and see the wheels spin. Just let her go. Huh. You're in drive, aren't you? It's probably the other one spinning. Alright, well that was terrifying, but I found out what the clunk was. Thank God it was just the lug studs. I just forgot about them, and you know, my OCD got the better of me once again, and I had those guys run in, and they just smacked into the control arm. So I've got 4 slightly, wherever they went, 4 goofy lug studs now, so we'll add those to the list. Not really, we're going to run them in. They still thread in and out, they just have flat spots on them at the very tip, right where you want them. Also have tires now, so we're going to throw those on here and take this guy for a test drive. And yeah, that was terrifying. I really thought I grenaded something right there, but yeah, just lug studs smacking into things and brake rotors jangling around. Alright, new boots, new flex joints, new steering dampener, tightened up steering system, adjusted valve train, new fuel lines and fuel filter, fixed odometer, and 4 bent lug bolts. Let's put this puppy on the road and see whether or not it's a cruiser now. Alright, well, the car is just as lumpy at idle as it was, and still shakes a fair bit. A lot more than I'd like, but at the very least, there's way less slack in the steering wheel, the odometer is working, and it doesn't clunk in between gears as hard. So yeah, and I don't really have a death wobble, but there's still a little bit more wobbling than I would like when I get up above 60. So yeah, we'll see. We'll just put a bunch of miles on it and ignore it, because I've done everything I can now, and other than alignment and tie rod ends, I'm out of ideas. And I ain't rebuilding differentials, transmissions, or engines. Also, the tach's back to not working for whatever reason now. So that's exciting. Hopefully the OVP didn't burn out again. Alright, well, that's the end of this episode of Lamasi. She's about 40-50% better, which is probably a solid 40% less better than I wanted to be after doing all that work. But I don't know what to do next. Maybe my springs are just shit or something. I don't know. Who knows? But anywho, if you like what I'm doing here, how about you give the video a like, comment, tell me what you think is still causing my car to have a weird vibration at about 60 miles an hour. It's probably just some kind of harmonic, probably bad springs or something. I don't care anymore. It's bent lug bolts. And yeah, if you want to see the rest of this series and the continuation of this saga, then go down there, subscribe, and smash the big red button. And until next time, I'm out.